Good evening and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining us today for this virtual curatorial walkthrough of Almost Seen, right? And those who don't know me, my name is Vikas, and I'm a curator and founder of Artlune. And today I'm excited that I'm accompanied by Ifedelopo as a curator and who's a curator and founder of ArtFroFest, right? So what do we think? Generally, what we do, what we do is we select works and we go work by work, right? Because artists are talking almost of the same about the same thing or same idea, right? But this time we decided to do something a bit different. So rather than going through exhibition simply by like a sequence of six artworks, and we will what we'll do is will make it more interesting as a walkthrough because these two practices don't talk to each other like in a very conventional way, right? And then we have to consider why we place this together in a way where it will create that dialogue. I hope it makes sense. If not, let me know. Sometimes I just keep on babbling and I completely lost the sentences, right? If it does, please give me a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. Okay, so so I'll begin with Shalu Yadav, sorry, Shelly Gupta, and speak about her works from Artlune's perspective, right? And then I'll hand over the baton to Ifedelopo, and she'll talk about Raphael's work from ArtFroFest perspective, right? And towards the end, what we'll do is we'll come together, right? And we'll look at the points of connection and differences between these two practices. I think that distinction is very important because when we started Almost Seen, it was never intended to suggest that these artists work on similar themes or narratives, right? Their concerns are different, their intentions are different, but what's most interesting thing about all these things is that they are using materials, layers, figures, and visibility, right? So how about let me begin with Shelley, right? And we can move forward with Raphael after that. So, just so I believe all of you have watched the saw the exhibition online, but if not, then with our team has prepared a small presentation where we put together Shelley and Raphael's work so that you guys can have a look around as well, right? So give me just a second. Let me see how to share the screen. Okay. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Is it visible? Okay, yes, yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay, so Shelly Gupta, as I said, I'll begin with Shelly Gupta. Shelly Gupta is a visual artist based in Delhi whose practice explores the idea of female desire, intimacy, vulnerability, and social restrictions surrounding women bodies and experiences, right? She works primarily through like mixed media using materials like cloth, paper, wire, right? But I don't want to begin by explaining like, hey, this is the work, this is it about, hey, that's it, right? Instead, I want you to have a look how she constructs the work. Because in Shelley's practice, one of the most important material is thread, right? It's not always visible, it's not always there, but it suggests a lot of things because thread connect things, right? Thread holds things together and create boundaries. At the same time, I'll say like it restricts, right? Everyone with me so far, right? Okay. Okay, perfect. So with the Shelley's work, what happens? this ambiguity becomes important when we look at her body of work, right? Because there are so many elements tied together to create that essence, that feeling, right? So before further delays, what I'll do, I'll talk about first work of Shelley. That's the title, the what is called, the
Poetry, of
poet.
course.
Yeah, the oops, sorry. It's just my screen comes in. I'm looking at you guys as well, right? The poetry of concupiscence. Sorry, concupiscence. My English. Sorry, concupiscence, right? And what I want you to look in this work is that how Shelley tried to draw a relationship between material and the figure, where body isn't simply placed onto the surface, it's constructed through layers, right? There's a sense that we are seeing figures, but we are almost being prevented from seeing the whole thing, right? And this particular tension is what makes Shelley work very interesting, right? I'll say like in her works, body explores, like body is exposed, right? But experiences of the person represented is not necessarily available to the viewer. Does it make sense? Okay. Yeah, and I think that's something we need to keep in mind while we are looking at Shelley's work, and ask us to consider whose experience that body represents and who gets to define it, right? So first work of Shelley is the poetry of concupiscence, and there's something very visible about it, but at the same time something else remains beneath it, right? And this work, I'll say, is almost how will I say, like this work is where the idea of almost scene begins, right? I i i feel like I'm rushing too much, but I would like you to have a look at the work and tell me your thoughts first before I move to the next work. Anyone who can begin. Anyone? Tanvat, Shelly, Tanvat, Shalu, Rahul, Charlotte, Priyanka, anyone?
I find the lines very interesting, especially the fact that there's two bodies, and
Mhm.
you could almost think that, okay, although there it restrictions, there's also a connection somehow that is established between the two characters in this painting.
True,
So
true,
quite
true.
interesting.
Yeah, nice observation. And as I mentioned earlier, with this, lines are trying to, like, artists want us to see the work at the same time. It, artist wants us to not see the work, right? Because the way lines are being constructed and the body is being like completely transparent and works are being like background is being reflected on it, right? It feels like everything is just being absorbed by the body itself, right? I'll say idea with this, the thing which I'm talking about will be more clear when we'll look at her next work, right? This second work titled I Rest Myself. So I want you to notice what happens to the figure there here. Okay, no one, then I'll tell you. So what happens, that figure has disappeared, right? It has integrated into the work itself, right? Because the figure is less straightforward. There's a fragmentation layer and interpretation. And again, there's a tons of room for interpretation. And that interpretation is very important because it prevents us from consuming the image immediately, right? We this makes sure that we spend more and more time with the image. And for me, this is where Shelley's material process becomes very interesting. Colors, I'll say, like colors and fabrics are not just simply decorative material. They become part of the language of the work itself, right? They can suggest intimacy, they can suggest like connection, restriction, protection, and vulnerability. At the same time, as I said, like there's an ambiguity, right? That's something I think we should retain rather than trying to resolve it. Right? That's just, again, this is my perspective towards the work, right? My ideation, right? And again, art is universal, art is subjective. Someone might have a completely different outlook on it, right? So if anyone has anything like this, please just let us know. Right? And next work is the third work of Shelley is this untitled one, right? And in this work again, I would like you guys to draw attention towards the relationship between visibility and concealment, right? Have what it suggests, like when I say visibility and concealment, what does this particular work suggest? Anyone? No, it's totally fine. Okay. Yeah.
I think it's playing between the, like, because I remember she spoke about uh, desires, private things, and things that are, allowed to be public, and other things that are more concealed that you keep within yourself. And I think that's on this one, she's kind of playing between the two.
True, true. That's completely true. Because in this one, figure is present, right? But it's not completely given to us. F- We have to search for the figure, right? This means there is something deliberately withheld, right? And I think that is particularly relevant for Shelley's work because her practice, like her practice in general, right? In her practice, her work is considered with experience that is historically being controlled, silenced, or made difficult to express openly, right? So visibility here isn't necessarily about revealing everything, right? Something having control over with what is how will I say, what is revealed is itself is a form of agency. Okay, let me say it again. I think I confused everyone. So here, visibility isn't necessary about is not only about revealing everything, right? It's about the agency in terms of how people control everything over a particular over female bodies and how they try to reveal it, like having that act of being empowered, right? And that is something I think is important when we look at Shelley's work, right? And what I find interesting is that we can now move forward from Shelley's work to Raphael's work, and it has a very completely different starting point, right? Where Shelley's work begins with a body and experience around it. Raphael's work begin with material that society has already decided like is no longer valuable, right? And yet there's something how do I say, like, yet there is an interesting question which connects them, right? And that is that what happens when we look again at something we have already decided how to see, right? And I really want everyone to please think about this question, because the more you think about this question, the more you'll understand the whole ideology behind almost seen, the more you'll understand what we are trying to say, because this is something which we experience or see in our day-to-day life, right? But so often we just try not to look at it, we just overlook it, right? And I won't take tons of your time, and now I would like to hand over stage to Ifedelopo, so that she can talk about Raphael's practice through her perspective. So now stage is all yours, Ifedelopo.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry, there's something wrong with my camera. It's been bleeping, so hopefully it will come back on later on. Talking about Jaffel's work, donc, as you know, Jaffel is an Ivorian artist based between France and Switzerland, and then his practice really goes across many disciplines, but is very attached to anything that is ecological and also work with materials. Why he loves to work with materials? It's because for him, the story doesn't start necessarily when he starts working with the material, but it starts before, because the materials, before it arrives in the studio, it has a life already. Like for this selection of work, he has worked from repurposed fabric that he got from a restaurant. He got that from a restaurant. So there was plenty of it and they were disposing of it. So he just asked them if he could have them. So he then took them to his place and started working on it. So what he likes about it is that the story that this material carries must be like a very a strong story, but at the same time, what interests him in this is that the story is unknown. I don't know what happened with this shit. Maybe something spilled water on it. Maybe it fell on the ground. Something happened to it, but we're not aware of that story. And it's also what happens in human life. There's lots of things that we don't know about our past, about the past of our parents, our heritage. And then that's why he wanted to start with such fabric. And from there, it builds on a new story. So you have a mix of the old and the new. And through that, because he's also in this particular series, it was really about culture and multiculturalism, and what's the effect, what's the connection between the different cultures. So that's what you can actually see through the way he worked on this fabric. You can see on this untitled one that it has the outline of a woman. You can see that it looks like a side view of a woman. And this actually brings out like a single, why did he choose to only put the face of a woman? It just wanted us to kind of focus on a single identity. Yet, through that single identity, it brought how shall I say, multiculturalism, shall I say? Because you see all these different colors, all these different pastry. I've got almost similar colors. You see blue, but it's not the same blue. The blue that is up there is not the same as the one that is at the bottom, that is not the same as the one that is in the middle. They all have differences. So, and that's how he wanted to express, in a way, an expression of multiculturalism, maybe focusing on women, because if you look at the second untitled painting that he did, that's the third one, but can I see the one after that one? We'll come back to that one. This one is the outline of a man. And you can see it also has the same kind of multiculturalism idea, where you see all these different tassels of colors, but it has a different tone of colors. It's not similar to the first one that we saw. The female is different from the male version. and they're kind of forming together a sort of diptych whereby you see the female view, the male view, and then you have each of them have got their own heritage, have got their own background, and then when you bring them together, they are bringing, you know, the full vision, the full story. And through that, you also have obviously what they're bringing that we cannot see through the fabric. They are also bringing that heritage with them. And you can see part of the fabric actually when because the way he is scratching and painting on the fabric, it allows us to see a little bit of the white, and which the white bits are actually the fabric that you see underneath. Which brings us to the third painting. So once you have the two diptychs, the female and the male, are now brought together to actually now come up with the full vision, which is the combination of the two. So you can see some of the coloring from the first one and the second one kind of blend together. You now see another outline, but you don't know if it's a man or a woman. And it doesn't matter because now it's the two different, the multiculturalized, oh la 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 la. Multicular, oh la la, I can't say it. Anyway, you know what I mean. Blend together, and now you can see the full picture. And that gives you an idea, shows you that, you know what, we can blend things. We meant to be, the togetherness is actually the way forward, where no matter how different, no matter our heritage is, the background, what we have, if we all come together, it's become richer. And that's the whole idea between those three images. So if I link it now to Shelley's work, I would say that Shelley speaks a lot, discuss through her work about intimacy, the perception of the world, on you know, anything that is related to intimacy. And then for Diafrel, he would have the opposite view, which is actually not the opposite. I would say another way to look at it, where it goes from the multiculturalism through the perception of the world of it. So you have a dimension where it's more intimate, and the other one where it's more like open and together. So, but they complete each other. And that's the funny thing, because almost seen allows us in both sides to see that there is a way where you feel that you're not seeing everything, but you feel like you're seeing everything, but you're not. That's true Shelley's work. And it's also the same thing through what Diafrel is doing. You believe that you may have seen everything, but in reality, you have not, because there's still this underneath part that you cannot fully see, but you can still experience it bit by bit.
Wisely said, I'll say. Thank you. Thank you, Ifedelopo. And I really liked the ending part you said. You may feel like you have seen everything, but how it says, like, there's still some picture left, right? You haven't seen the climax.
Exactly.
So, and that's where the underneath layer comes in, right? And that brings us to the question of why these two artists are together in this exhibition, right? And I feel like how, like, I'll just add to what Ifedelopo said. Answer is very much clear when we just look at their materials, right? Shelley works with thread, cloth, paper, right? And Raphael works with discarded fabric, cardboard, and trampoline, right? The materials are different, but neither artist treat the materials simply as a neutral surface, right? For them, materials already carries meaning. As you said, the sheets which he got from the restaurant, right? They already have a meaning, have a story behind it, right? In Shelley's work, I'll say, like, thread can carry associations of connection, domesticity, restrictions, and intimacy, right? Because it's too much, too close to the heart or body, right? And in Raphael's work, the discarded surface carries traces of consumption, use, and abandonment, right? So the material itself becomes the part of narrative, right? So I how I would like if Delope if she would like to add anything in it.
No, I think you've kind of covered it because we already said most of what I wanted to say.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and no worries. So okay, so that this means this brings us back to almost seen, right? Where the exhibition isn't really about making something invisible suddenly become visible, right? It's about recognizing that it was already there. And again, I'm saying it, recognizing that it was already there, right? Because the discarded material was always carrying its history. The desire was always there. The figures were always there. The expressions or the experiences was always there, right? But then what changed, right? What changes? I'll say it's before I say anyone, then if everything was already there, then what changed? Okay, no worries. I'll tell. It what changed is our willingness to look at it differently, right? There's another connection that becomes increasingly important as we develop the exhibition, and that is the layers, right? Both artists build their works through layers, right? But I don't think we should understand layering simply as a visual technique, right? Layering can be concealed, right? It can obscure, it can protect, but layering can also bring something forward. It can make us look more carefully, right? And that is where I think the title almost seen becomes particularly useful, right? The same process that can hide something can also become the process through which we can reveal something, right? The only difference in this whole thing is that the intention, right? If there's a if there's an intention where you want to hide, you'll come up with things to hide. But if there's an intention to tell you the stories, tell you the ideas behind it, you'll find 10,000 different ways just to show what's there, right? So So I'll say what becomes interesting when we place Raphael's work alongside the Shelley, alongside Shelley, is that Shelley's work become richer when we see it alongside Raphael, right? Because we are no longer looking only at the body. We start thinking about what society choose us to value, right? What it choose to discard, what it choose to conceal, and what it choose to bring it into the view, right? That is where the two practices begin to come together and actually create a genuine conversation. And I think it is equally important that we don't resolve the differences between these artists, because Raphael's ecological and material concerns remain his own, right? And Shelley's exploration of female desires and something restrictions, both and social restrictions remains hers, right? The exhibition doesn't collapse those differences, right? And we never intended to. We always wanted to highlight those. It's just the exhibition allows them to sit beside each other and create another layer of meaning, right? So I'll say perhaps the invitation of almost seen is quite simple. I'll say not invitation. I'll say the idea of it happens. English is not my first language. It happens. Yeah. So perhaps the idea of almost seen is very simple, right? It's like don't look only what is sorry don't look only what is immediately presented, right? What's in front of your eyes. Look at the material. Look what has been covered, what has been transformed, what has been left behind, and ask yourself what was already there that I hadn't noticed, right? So, any if it or anyone would like to add anything in it?
No, I mean what you said is very right, and then it's a excellent way to blend the two. I mean, um, like you said, what they would say here, what we do say in France is like we do not judge the book by its cover. It's almost the same principle. This exhibition invites you to go beyond what you see, to look for the details, look for the little elements that will tell you more about the story that you do not see.
True, true, true. And I'll say in my experience, what makes an artwork more interesting is that the story which we haven't seen or which the story which don't know. The moment everything is presented in front of us, it's just there, and it's so easy to just like take your eyes off and just to go away without it thinking anything. Yeah.
I totally
So
agree with you.
thank you, thank you. So would be happy to hear any thoughts or questions. So anyone, anything, anytime, just let us know because we still have tons of time, right? And we really want it to be an interactive session rather than a lecture, right? Because a lot of time what happens in lecture, they log into their online classes, turn off their mic and camera and fall asleep, right? And we really don't want that to happen. So we'll try to make it as interactive as possible, right? So Shalu, would you like to give some thoughts or would you like to add something in it?
Not really, but like listening to what your thoughts and what your views are on the two artist works. It was very interesting to hear because I have worked with Shelley, so I know a bit about her art practice and her works. But listening about Raphael, it was very interesting from the point of view of Ifedelopo, like how he works and what he tries to show in his works and the mixed media works. It is very interesting to see. And I would say, like, how she explained, like, what is in the artworks, I did not thought about it. And now looking at those artworks from that perspective and like just trying to understand what the artist is trying to say, I mean, it's very much interesting. And I would say like this session was very much needed because we did not had any conversation with Jaffel yet. So yeah, it's important to hear more about him. So yeah, it was interesting. Thank you, Ifitilo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shalu, for giving your thoughts. And yes, as you said, material, knowing about the material creates that, how will I say, tell you what actually happened, right? Rather than what's presented. Like for like someone who's just walking by the street, oh, some artist took some random fabric, create a face. Come on, is this art? But because they didn't stop, they didn't slow down, and they didn't give it a thought. That's why it is a completely different narration for people who just busy in their day-to-day life so much that they're not slowing down or looking at things where it's actually needed, right? The conversations which will actually make you think your own actions, make you think your own mindset, right? So that's why that this is what we as Artlune and ArtFroFest try to do with this exhibition to make sure people slow down, people understand what the thing is, what artist is trying to say, what artist is trying to do. It's not just Raphael's work or Shelley's work. It's for all the artists who are actually trying to create a conversation with society, right? And it's so easy to we if Develop and I we have discussed this so many times. It's so easy for people to just ignore things and move forward. Oh, I don't understand art. Oh, this is not my cup of tea. But only reason is that people don't give it a thought, right? They don't even try to sit and understand why artist is trying to do this, right? Why it changed so much, right? So thank you for this insightful thing, Shalo. Thank you, Ifedelopo. And anyone, Rahul, Priyanka, Charlotte, anyone, or has any thoughts on artworks, or any question for us, or anything for the theme? If not, it's totally fine. I get it because you guys are here for just to understand what's going on, right? So I won't force anyone. But I have questions for all of you, right? Remember, I asked you a question, so I wrote it somewhere, and now it's lost. Okay, here it is. When I was talking to you guys, I asked you what happens when we look again at something we already have decided how to see. So now, since now you know about Shelley's practice, now you know about Raphael's practice. So would you like to answer what how do you look at things when it's already been when in your mind it's already a trash?
For me, I mean, the more I've been speaking and hearing about Shelley's work, it's opened up my vision, shall I say, about her work. And then by opening my vision, it's allowing me to see more and understand more the connections and, see beyond. Like, that's why when you talk about almost seeing, I see more than what I thought I saw before. So, and it keeps evolving because now I looked at the pictures, I looked at the paintings again today, and it gave me another idea that I did not see yesterday when I checked out the website. So it's like you said, it's a slow building up, and it's interesting to experience it actually, because I looked at the all the painting yesterday, and we looked at it just today, and it still brought me something new. I saw something new in it. So yeah, I really appreciate that. And even as a curator, you do feel this. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pedro. I'll say, yeah, that's the beauty of the art itself, right? When you start looking at something, right? First time when you look at something, you absorb those things and like, oh, here's this color, here's this element, this that, blah blah blah, everything. You just absorb it. It's like sitting in a lecture and hearing tons of things and like, oh, I don't know what to do next, right? But then you next time when you see it, you move beyond the surface itself. You start noticing those patterns. You start noticing those connections in the things, right? And that's where you actually slow down, right? Because then your eyes are not looking at the whole work. Your eyes are looking at a particular point or a particular story through which you connected with the work. And that's from that point onwards the real journey in the art, like looking at the artwork begins, right? Because it will make you think 1,000 times. Yeah, I hope this makes sense. Okay, so I think we have no takers this time, but no worries. We have another sessions coming up, and we have tons of interesting things going on around, right? So if you haven't subscribed to our newsletters, make sure please subscribe it, right? And if you haven't followed us on Instagram, please follow us, because in newsletters and Instagram, the first places where we put our maximum stuff, right? So I think now it's time to say bye bye to each other, right? So I would like to thank you everyone once again for joining us today for this curatorial walkthrough of Almost Seen. And I would like to request everyone to please visit our website and visit this exhibition titled Almost Seen if you haven't visited yet. And we have our address, oh, sorry, feedback forms, right? So we'll email you after the exhibition, or will you just visit our website and link is already there. You just fill it, right? It will just take 1 or 2 minutes, not more than that. But those 1 or 2 minutes will give us way more valuable insights than you think. And on upcoming 30th and 30th of this month, right? We have amazing session. That is two of our artists are joining us, although two artists itself, but yeah, two artists from of the exhibition are joining us, both Raphael and Shelley, right? And we'll be having a conversation with them. And again, if you have questions, you can email me so that I'll include in my Q&As rather than randomly asking. Right, so you can email me those questions or just DM us or message us, and we'll add those things in. And I hope I'll see you all on 30th. And please make sure to see the website, not just website, see the exhibition and give us your thoughts, right? So that in future, we'll make sure to bring more and more interesting projects and events for you. Thank you. Thanks a lot, everyone. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you. Bye.